Hi, this is Mallika Chopra, founder of Intent.com, and I have a new book coming out called Living with Intent, My Somewhat Messy Journey to Purpose, Peace, and Joy. I'm truly, truly honored right now to speak to Robyn Obrien, who I've met several times, but feel like we're kindred spirits, kindred mothers on a mission to just share some of our own lessons. And Robyn, I'm going to let you talk about what you do, but one of the reasons I just am always blown away by your work is you're passionate and you're truly living with intent. And Robyn is a champion for looking at what's in our food, thinking about what is the future for our children. And I've seen you on Facebook really say, the future is our children, and this is why we need to really be asking questions and challenging organizations and companies to really look at our food. So, Robyn, thank you, and please tell me, I know a little bit, but tell everyone what drives you and what you're doing.
Well, my background was finance, and I was an analyst on a team of guys. I was the only woman on the team, and they had me cover the food industry. So I was doing a ton of financial analysis on the food industry about 15 years ago, and it was fascinating, to really learn in a very deep way the business models of an industry that is one of the most powerful industries in the world. And, it was very analytical. My heart was not involved at all. It was totally black and white. And then when we had our children, we had 4 kids, and the youngest child, she struggled with some health issues, and then one of our boys actually struggled with some pretty severe health issues. All of a sudden I turned that analytical skill set back on the industry and went into a deep dive of, what is in the food and how can I do a better job and what are things that I can be doing to help these children strengthen their immune system and get better. And as I began to really do a deep dive into the food industry, with my heart connected to it, it was a different analysis to that purely analytical one. And I think probably the most powerful lesson that I learned was that, the United States, we lead on so many things, and yet when it came to our food, other countries had a much higher standard. They were much more precautionary. They were much more careful around the science of what they allowed into the food and what they kind of kept out until further science had proven it safe. And that double standard just hit me between the eyes, and it was really realizing that our own American food companies were formulating their products differently with a lot of artificial ingredients here while they were still using real ingredients overseas. And, these were our food companies, names that I had grown up on. And that double standard, it really hit me between the eyes. And I thought, they've responded to consumer needs overseas. They've really listened to parents, to mothers who have said, we don't want this artificial stuff in our kids' foods. And they pulled it out so we could do the same thing here. And it was an enormous task. And I can't just say moments. There were days, if not months, where I truly thought, how can I present this argument in a way that it won't alienate people, it won't make them feel guilty or blamed. I really kind of had to do a very deep dive internally and personally to figure out a way to begin to bridge this message and to reach an audience that was very wide, because to me it was a very patriotic issue, and it's also a civil rights issue. I think access to clean and safe food is something that should be afforded to parents and mothers everywhere. And if moms overseas had access to mac and cheese, without all this junk in it, moms in the United States deserve that same access too. It should not, it should not be a function of zip code or where you go, which grocery store you go to for shopping. So, it became much bigger than just what was going into the food and these ingredients and these business models. It truly became, to me, and it is, one of the greatest human rights issues of our time, this access to clean and safe food. And that doesn't, it doesn't matter if you're a mother in the middle of Africa or if you're a mother in the middle of New York City. This, to me, is a fundamental human right. And if you look at the fact that our children are 100% of our future, you take a look right now at the health of American children, and the statistics are so gut-wrenching. Yeah. And parents know it. We know it when we walk into a preschool and we see the EpiPens that are stacked on a shelf. We know it when we talk to our friends who have a child that may be battling diabetes or battling pediatric cancer. We know it and we see it every day. And so it's a unique opportunity, I think, for our generation as parents to really create a legacy.
Yep. And Robyn, you've been doing this for many years now, and obviously motivated by your children's reaction. But I have to ask you, because I often struggle with fear of going out there, judgment, the fear of failure, of course. I mean, you have taken on such a massive issue, and you're just such kind of a fighter for it. But do you ever doubt yourself? How do you overcome that?
The fear was paralyzing in the early years. And I can remember at one point, I'm from Houston, Texas, and we were flying down there to see my family. And we were flying over this enormous city. And I just had this moment where I thought, how in the world can one person begin to create the kind of message and help create this movement that needs to be created to touch as many people as need to be touched. And, it would have been so easy to give up and to simply say, I'm just going to change what I can change here in my fridge. But it got to this place where I thought, I have been given these gifts, this background of mine, the fact that I was able to go to business school on this full scholarship and be an equity analyst, and the opportunity that I now have, the fact that I have this ability to articulate this message, and when I do stand on a stage, to come so completely from the heart, that there was no ego in it. Every time I take the stage, I say a little prayer right before to just let my heart speak, and I'm just that vehicle for it, And I think the fact that it is so love-inspired, the message carries in a very different way, and also because I was so far from understanding this. I was so far from perfect. When I take the stage, I talk about how, it was tubes of blue yogurt and huge packs of Dino Nuggets and huge, Costco-sized packages of fluorescent mac and cheese. And by owning all of those imperfections, it took a ton of courage to own it, but what I realized was that in really owning those imperfections and being able to stand on the stage and talk about that, it gave other people the ability to own theirs too. And I've had people say, and it's kind of funny now, they'll say, you were so bad, if you could come this far, it gives me hope that I can do something too. And once I really was, and it had more to do with, your own heart and your own strength, and to realize that love is so much more powerful than fear. It is so much more powerful than fear. And this is the 10th year of the work. And I have seen that over and over and over again, where it is the love that inspires us to step outside of our comfort zone. Fear is the thing that kind of can lock you into it. But the love that is in this is so much bigger than that fear. And, 1,000 times we've stepped out of the comfort zone. And it's really in stepping out of your comfort zone that you create change. But I would suggest that probably the first thing I would do is find a friend, is because we can't do it by ourselves, and it is super scary stepping out of your comfort zone. And friends are sort of like supportive scaffolding, that can help hold you up as you step outside of your comfort zone, or like training wheels on a kid's bike. You don't just go at it entirely, the first time. And so by having someone who you can lean into, whether it's a really close friend, maybe you're really lucky to have a sibling that you can lean into, or, for me, I had an incredible mentor in Paul Hawken. Just an absolute incredible mentor in him. Yeah. And when I had those moments of doubt, it was to really be able to verbalize it, to not just internalize it. And I think once you have that person that you can, who is just an ally and a sounding board and a true friend, I think that's also a really important part of it.
I love that. In the book, my new book, I have created an acronym around intent, which begins with incubate, notice, trust, express, nurture, and then take action. And the entire nurture section is about asking for help, about nurturing relationships, because that's so important, these networks of support. To create in our life, so that we feel connected, we feel motivated, we are okay being vulnerable. So I love that point. Robyn, you and I are feel like we're living on such parallel paths. We're the same age. We both have kids around the same age. We've kind of been doing this for a while. We talked a little bit before the call about finding ourselves as mentors. And, one of the things I've really struggled with is kind of finding balance between the kids and travel and writing and work and being passionate, driving what you're passionate about doing and sharing that. How do you find any sense of balance in your life? Because you are doing amazing things.
I think probably one of the first things I had to do was step back and say, each of us are writing our own story and no two are alike. So where there may be lessons from other people or other friends or other women or other mentors, we are the only ones living this unique story. And so you have to figure out a way to structure it in a way that works for you, that works for your marriage, that works for your family. And, I really had to have a grace and flexibility in that because, again, like this is year 10, the kids are now teenagers, whereas they were 1, 3, 4, and 5 when it started. And so there's a different flexibility now, but then there are also different needs. And so it's that constant fluid evaluation that nothing is ever constant, except change. And so as we kind of navigate each year, what's going to work for this year? And, I think probably one of the most important things is how do we as women take care of ourselves with all of these demands, because the juggling act is enormous today. And the demands on 21st century parents are huge, and especially when you layer on top of that what we're seeing in this generation of children, which has earned the title of Generation RX, there are things that our parents never had to deal with. And if you put in social media, there's so many factors. So, how do we take care of ourselves in that demand and in all of that work? And once I kind of hit this point where I thought, going to a yoga class or going for a run is part of my job. That's part of my job. And that, honestly, that hour of my day is as important as anything else because it helps me stay clear and grounded. It helps me deal with the stress. It helps me process this so that it doesn't, internalize and blow somewhere else along the way. And so, really, that's always my advice to working moms is consider that part of your job so that you don't feel guilty about it. You don't push it to, to where it doesn't get done. And if it means it has to be the first hour of your day, which in a lot of cases for me, that's when I do it, is, that is carved out time and it is part of your job. So I think that self-care is one of the most important ingredients in all of this because you can eat all the organic food you want, but if you have so much stress and you aren't able to manage that, you end up going down in a different way and you're not there for the work that we have to do. We're not there as wives. We're not there as mothers. So, again, it's really how do we define this for ourselves and how do we define it for our own families? And it's not one size fits all anymore. And, for some people, they're really lucky to have family around. For others, they're blessed with just an incredible network of friends. But to really give yourself permission to write the script as it needs to be written for you and your family.
That's beautiful. So last question, to me, you're such an example of living with intent, which is passion and purpose, and almost like you've found in Indian philosophy, we have a concept called dharma, which is your purpose in life. And to me, you're a great example of that, kind of coming from the heart, a mother who's, kind of on this mission because this is our future as well. But I'm curious, what does intent mean to you, or what do you see as your intent?
I think that if we can help each other be the best versions of ourselves that we can be, that to me is living with intent. And I think, for each of us, there's something so unique about each one of us, and each one of us has such a unique set of skills and talents to bring to this world, and no one on the planet is the same. And I think, in a time where the messaging can be very much about conformity and doing everything a certain way and sort of this complete unattainable strive towards some perfect standard, I think what is truly beautiful is what makes us each unique, and to really own that, to really help people own that, to help them shine with their own talents and gifts, that to me is living with intent. And I think by allowing that, then there is just this incredible freedom to bring to the world the unique talents that each of us have to bring to the world. And we recognize that it's not one size fits all. And I think, ultimately that becomes the fabric that we weave. And I look at, again, our generation of parents and the opportunity in front of us to take these systems that we've inherited out of the 20th century, of which they served us in the 20th century, but we're quickly realizing that we can do better. We can create and design and iterate on that, and we can do better, and we can leverage our talents and create better systems. To me, that is just an incredible opportunity and an extraordinary legacy that we can leave. But it does require us, to step into our own talents, to step out of our comfort zones, and to really, I think, lean on each other in a way that I think is really beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I feel so honored to be connected to you, and I want to encourage people to go to Robyn's site, robynobrien.com, to pick up her book, The Unhealthy Truth, to just follow her on social media, because I know that I actually actively go and look at your page to see what you're up to. So thank you. It's a real honor to be connected.
I think right now, you can look at it as we've inherited a mess, or we have inherited a wide open landscape and this incredible opportunity to create change. And that to me is really exciting. And we truly, truly need everybody. We need all hands on deck. So, it's a really exciting time to lend your talents to help create a greater change.
Fantastic.